This episode of the Heartland Running Podcast is brought to you by Sword Endurance Drink. Sword is built to improve all aspects of your endurance during your run. Consuming Sword just prior and throughout your training or race will delay your feelings of fatigue and increase your stamina. It also will greatly improve your level of hydration using a carefully chosen blend of sodium electrolytes. If you want to learn more, be sure to check out their website at www.drinksword.com. And if you decide to give them a try, be sure to use Heartland Runner at the checkout to save 20%.
Welcome to the Heartland Running Podcast. Join Crystal, Andy, and Steven as they explore all things running related in the Heartland and beyond.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Heartland Running Podcast. I'm Crystal.
I'm Andy.
And we are your hosts for this crazy episode. And if you're not feeling lazy, get ready to feel lazy very soon. How are you doing, Andy? I know you don't feel lazy.
No, I don't feel lazy. It's busy. It's crazy. And, one thing that I am liking is that it has decided to not be so raging hot. And it seemed like fall took a long time to get here. And so now it's finally here. And so I'm not having to train and run in the raging heat. I'm not getting near the runs in that I want to right now. But at least the ones I am getting in, I'm not sweating myself to death. So that's great.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, it's been here. We had snow last weekend, which was really early. Yeah, snow in Cincinnati. And then now we're getting a little bit of a warm front coming through. So it's all crazy. That's why everybody gets sick at this time of year. But yeah, not us, though. But I'm excited for our guest tonight. This is going to be a fun one. And after I read his bio, I'm going to have to take a breath and take a nap. So we'll get started. It's Tony. Oh, Tony, how do you pronounce your last name? Is it Phillippi or Phillippi?
Phillippi.
Phillippi. Okay. So Tony Phillippi is one of the original founders of the Marathon Maniacs, which were founded back in 2003. And then also the Half Fanatics, which was founded in 2009. And then in 2006, he started the Tacoma City Marathon. Tony ran track in school, and his first road race post-school was in 1995 at the Sound to Narrows. The running bug caught him again, and he ran his first marathon in 1998 at Portland. As of today, and probably as of the time of this recording, he has run 278 marathons, which include 9 Ironman, 46 ultras, and 2 100-mile races. He ran his personal best marathon in 2004 wearing sandals in a time of 2 hours, 53 minutes, and 37 seconds. And what's also impressive is he also ran a total of 42 marathons that year. And also he has run the Boston Marathon for 16 consecutive years. Whew! Welcome, Tony.
Thank you.
Seriously, I'm
tired just listening to that.
That's what I said. I'm like, I need a nap. That's a lot. Okay.
Oh, boy. I've been doing it a long time, I guess.
Not that long to have that many.
Well, I did cram in quite a few, I guess, in a short period of time.
When you're saying that you're doing 42 in a year, that's a lot. So it's 278 as of the time that we're recording this. So it's we're coming up to the weekend of November 3rd. So New York is this weekend, and there's some other ones. Are you running anything this weekend?
No, nope.
Okay.
My next race is Tulsa, or Route 66 in Tulsa. Yep. November 18th.
November 18th. So by the time that this actually airs, that number will still be correct. And then if you're listening after that date, then you just got to keep adding up.
That's right. Yeah, I may wing it and find something this weekend, but I think I'm just going to stick around town and do some training.
Perfect. Yeah, don't blow our numbers. We're going to keep 278 until it's released. Can't mess it up.
Okay.
Now, have you run the Tulsa Marathon before, or is this your first time?
Yeah, I've ran it, I think, 5 or 6 times. The Route 66 guys do a great job getting the Maniacs and Half Fanatics out there. They do this Maniac corner thing, and they give us a special medal. And they started that about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's just grown. I think last year there was around, 1,600 club members there. So it's quite a showing. I guess the timing, the middle of the United States there, but yeah, they do a great job.
So now, before we jump too much into it, explain for those who don't know who the Marathon Maniacs are.
Well, we're a group of like-minded runners who like to run a lot of marathons. And we created the club because there wasn't anything out there that was as crazy as me, Steve, and Chris were at the time. There was the 50 States Club, but that's kind of a different thing. They check off states, here and there, and on their way to 50 states. But yeah, so we created this club, and to qualify, you got to run three marathons in 3 months. That's the bronze level. And then we have all the levels in between, up to 52 marathons in a year. And that's titanium level.
And how many, do you know off the top of your head, how many people have made it to titanium now? I know there was a few within the past year that were added.
Yeah. I think they're coming in every week, but I think it's around, we're around 100.
Which compared to, I think there's just over 14,000 people now?
Yeah. Yep. 14,100 or something like that. And it's hard to keep track anymore. But
and you can see they come in quickly. Well, I am proud Maniac number 12,911.
Awesome. And what did you do to qualify? Well, there's different ways. You can do 2 in 3 weeks, or 3 in 3 months.
So my story's kind of funny because, and for those who may not have realized, you've probably been at marathons and seen a bunch of crazy people in the bright yellow shirts, with the crazy runner with the cat on the head and Marathon Maniac. So that's that group. And so I kind of, after I'd had my son, I was having a hard time getting back into running. And it was this on and off again love affair with running. And I thought, I really want a challenge. I want to do something. And that's when I decided I want to go, and I wanted to qualify for the Maniacs. I had a bunch of marathons lined up. I was going to do, I think I was doing, it was more than 3 in 3 months, but I had a bunch lined up. And I was out on a training run one morning. And of course, you do your best thinking on a training run. And it dawned on me that I had already qualified years before multiple times. And so I went back and I asked the question, I'm like, how close does it have to be from when you qualified? And they're like, nope, if you qualified, you qualified. I'm like, okay, here's the times that I did. So I think the one that I actually used is where I ran a 50K one weekend, and then the following weekend I ran a marathon. So kind of not in the same weekend, but with a week apart. So that's what I used. And then, so I'm still at the bronze, still a baby.
Well, you fit right in. A marathon or a 50K a week apart is pretty maniacal.
But it's kind of baby compared to what some of the other people do. Has the criteria changed at all since you first started it, or has it remained the same over the years?
It did change right off the bat. Probably within 6 months or so, we had our first criteria, and we just based it on our own experience, like 20 marathons in a year or something like that was the gold level. And that was a four-star, the highest level. And then we started finding out that there were some nutty runners out there already. And they're like, we've already done that. Is there anything harder? We need to revamp this criteria. And so Chris and I sat down on my couch in the living room and cracked open a beer and came up with some nutty levels. And they're the same levels that they are today. So, it's been, maybe 12, 13 years now that it's been the same. And crazy as it may sound, people have asked for even harder levels. So we did create the club, the Double Agents, and we can talk about that if you want to.
Yeah, go ahead and explain what that is.
Well, the Double Agents, we have the Half Fanatics, which is the same criteria as the Marathon Maniacs. So to qualify for that, you have to run 3 half marathons in 3 months. So to become a Double Agent, you need to be a Marathon Maniac and a Half Fanatic, and you're automatically a Double Agent, but there's levels within that. And you combine those 2 levels of the Marathon Maniacs and the Half Fanatics, and it gets pretty challenging. So say, for instance, 52 marathons and 52 half marathons in 1 year, that's creating quite a challenge. So for those nutty enough to take on that, and there have been, the Double Agents are there for you. See,
somehow when you came up with the criteria, it was after you cracked open a beer. Sometimes somehow I think people going after these goals have also cracked open a beer before they decide to go do this.
I think so.
What do you think?
Well, I got a couple questions for you here. So now these have what type of races do they have to be? I mean, they have to be official races that you're signing up for, not counting training runs or anything like that, or what's the criteria for those races to count?
Yeah, when we started the club, there wasn't that many races out there like there is today. Back in 2003, you'd find some, pardon the term, but fat ass 50Ks, and those were that's a term for just a low key ultra run, and those were fine. Those were far and few between back then even, but so they have to be an official race, and the race has to have results. And the USATF rules is what we first went by is you have to have 5 starters and 3 finishers to make it an official race. And then we found out that a lot of people were shooting for more stars, and they started creating a lot of races out there that they would have 5 of their buddies show up and 3 of them went the distance, and they would count it as a marathon and post some results. So we felt that wasn't really in the spirit of the marathon, what we had envisioned. And so we made it a little tougher. We went beyond what the USATF said, and it's not a lot, but at least they have to get an effort out there. It's, I think it's 15 starters for a marathon and 10 finishers. So at least you got to get an effort to get a lot of people out there, of your friends anyway, to create a race. And those aren't really happening too much anymore, but they were for a while. People were chasing the stars, I guess you could say. So, and the Half Fanatics is a little bit stricter criteria for a race. I think it's 25 starters and 20 finishers or something like that. So, but those are kind of a thing of the past. That doesn't happen as much anymore. And there's so many races that have been created since 2003 that actually the market is saturated with races now. And being a race director too, I'm seeing that the race industry in whole, except for a few of the big ones, they're struggling to get their numbers back what they were 4 or 5 years ago, because there's just so many events out there. And I don't know all the data about it, but I believe there are more runners than ever. It's just that there's so many more events to choose from.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, you have something almost every weekend, in some cases, multiple choices over a weekend to go to. So yeah, that, that makes sense.
Yeah. And especially out here in Washington, it seems, I mean, there have been people that have got titanium level just in Washington alone. So they've run 50 plus marathons just in Washington in 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. They're saving a lot of money, that's for sure. not traveling.
That is expensive for sure. A quick question. We talked about, there's the expense to it. There's also a lot of travel that goes into it. And, me personally, I'm not a maniac. I'm aware of it. And, I've seen, and I've checked out your website, some of the criteria, and it's interesting to see all those different levels that are there. But, what do you think is that big draw? What do you think it is that, someone decides, hey, I want to kind of take my running to that next level and maybe push myself to do a few extra races so that way I can be a part of this. So, a guy like me that's not a part of that, what's that draw out there? What do you think brings all those people together? I do know one thing. I'll be at a race, and I always see that the Maniacs are having more fun than anyone else, and they're jumping around and chanting and having a good time and taking pictures before the race. And so, I see that social aspect, but what else is the draw? What gets people into it?
Well, I think, we're not about times. We don't care what your finish time is. You can be an elite athlete or a 6 or 7 hour marathoner. And it just opens up a whole new challenge for those that are back of the packers, if you will. To do 3 marathons in 3 months was unheard of, really, back in the day. There were a few out there that did it. But I think it's just the challenge of doing more quantity versus quality, I guess, because 90% of our members are just out there having a good time, and they're really challenging themselves. I mean, they're out there 2-3 hours longer than an elite athlete. And elite athletes are like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine running for 4 hours, but that's what we're doing. And so I think that's the draw that they can be with like-minded runners out there. And it's not about, oh, I'm faster than you or better than you. It's just about out there and giving it your all week in and weekend out. So I think that's the big draw. And we do have a lot of fun on the course. Sometimes too much fun in some races. Yeah, I've seen people stop at Starbucks along the course and have a latte at mile 15. That's a bit much, but come on, let's get to the finish line, okay?
Well, I'll tell you, at the Hatfield McCoy Marathon, which is one of the real popular ones among 50-staters and Maniacs, because it's smaller, it's one of the few ones in West Virginia. At mile 25, I think it is a Dairy Queen, and it's a hot marathon because it's in I believe it's in July, and you see a lot of people walking off the course to go to get their Dairy Queen and come back. So I always thought that was funny.
Yeah, why not? I personally have never done that.
I didn't do it either. I'm like, I'm at 25. It's hot. I just want to be done. But they were sure having a good time.
Yeah. Well, I was just at the Fox Cities Marathon. We had a reunion race there last month or September. It was a really hot day, and they had popsicles out there, and I had several. Oh. I walked and had several popsicles. It was just the best thing ever.
Popsicles in a hot marathon are awesome. Although you have to be careful when the kids are handing them out, because I always worry sometimes that I'm stealing a kid's popsicle. I'm like, were they handing that to me, or did I just take that kid's popsicle? So
make for a good commercial. Run by and grab somebody's popsicle.
So if there's any crying children out there, I'm sorry, I may have stole your popsicle, and I feel bad.
Yeah, me too. I'm sorry.
So Tony, a quick question. We're kind of discussing about, just kind of the different way that the Maniacs and a lot of people actually run races. Do you think that over the last, maybe let's just say 10 years, for instance, that there's been kind of a change in the mentality of how people run marathons and how people run races? As compared to, how it used to be. And I'm not saying that it's less serious, because it doesn't matter how long it takes you to run a marathon. It's still a massive challenge and something that's really difficult to do. And you have to train for it because you can't fake your way through it. But I wonder if there's just been a change of, accepting different ways to be able to run a marathon. You think that change has kind of helped with, more people being interested in doing something like the Maniacs?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the marathon has just gotten more and more popular. I guess, there's the 70s running boom, and then there's a phase in the 80s and then the 90s. But I think it is like for a novice runner to run a marathon, it's like climbing Mount Everest. I mean, it's a huge undertaking. And I know, because we all know we've been there, our first marathon, but so it's so readily available. They can take on the Mount Everest at their local city, and they can have a great time and have lots of support, and it's a lot safer than climbing Mount Everest. So I think just that being right there at your arm's length to be able to take on that goal and change your life, get fit, and make new friends, healthy friends and healthy environment. I think that has just really changed the mentality of runners the last 10, 15 years. Since the Maniacs started, I've seen so many thousands of lives changed. It's been really, really something to see people getting off the couch and getting their friends together and training for a marathon. And it's been a lot of fun to see the change throughout the years.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I want to switch a little bit away from the Maniacs a little bit, and I want to talk about your role as a race director, because I think it's really interesting. We mentioned you're the, I believe, co-race director for the Tacoma City Marathon. Tell us a bit about the marathon.
Well, we we started it back. We started the company, Tacoma City Marathon Association, in 2006. And I had gotten laid off from my printing job of 20 plus years in early 2006. And so I decided to take a stab at go at it in the running industry. And Tacoma has had several marathons throughout the years, one in the early 80s and one in the early 90s. And my partner in crime, he owned Fleet Feet here locally. And so we partnered up and pooled in $600 to get a license and came up with a route and sold it to the city. And they said, okay, let's give it a go. And we've been here for 12 years now. But, working with a city, I mean, it's a challenge for sure. And Tacoma's been changing a lot. The whole north end of Tacoma looks nothing like it did 10 years ago. So our route has changed quite a bit. And I'm a USATF certifier or course measurer. So I've got the tools to go out and remeasure the course whenever we need it. But yeah, it's been good for the city, and it's an ever changing task for sure. Nothing's always the same. So race directors out there, it's a tough gig. It's especially the smaller marathons where they don't have the huge sponsors like the Houston and New York. It's a lot of work. So my hat's off to all them, and I certainly do a lot of other things besides race direct. It's got to be a job of passion, and I'm a passionate runner. So is my partner, and so we're going to keep Tacoma going as long as we can.
I love it.
That's pretty exciting to hear about. I direct a race every spring, and so I understand exactly what you're talking about. We just finally got our date nailed down for this spring, so it's time to get to work here pretty soon on that. So what are one of the things as a race director, one of the things behind the scenes that, when you're putting on a race like that you wish that people better understood? Because I know there are so many challenges to putting on a quality event. I mean, what's that big thing that you think that you wish people understood?
Well, I think the amount of volunteers it takes is one of the things. I don't know that people realize how much work goes into recruiting volunteers and creating fundraisers for volunteers for their organizations. I think that's one of the things. I mean, you open up a website and you see, oh, there's a cool graphic, and oh yeah, here's a relay, and here's the exchange point, and that doesn't just happen. A lot of thought goes into all those little tiny details, and then they have to execute them on race day. I used to think, hey, you get a bib number and you get a T-shirt and, oh, it's all good. You go run a race. How easy of a job is that, being a race director? But it's a year-long thing trying to get all the details to come together on that one morning at 7 a.m. on that one day, and hopefully you can pull it off. And I don't think ever race directed a race that has been perfect. There's always a glitch. Someone didn't show up for their assigned position, or a box of t-shirts got lost or something. But yeah, I think for the most part people do realize it is a lot of work. But as a race director yourself, you probably see the emails that you get from runners that don't really know how much work when they chastise you when something went wrong or something that's kind of out of your control. So, there's always that too. But
my biggest thing, that is my biggest stressor, which I can be a pretty cool character throughout the whole process and do all the work that needs to be done. It's just whenever I blow that horn and I send all those runners out into the town, and I just think to myself, I hope my volunteers get them back to the finish line.
Yes.
The last thing I want to get a phone call from the police saying there's people just wandering all around town looking for their next turn, and that would be my biggest nightmare. But we've pulled it off pretty good most of the time. So anyway, my hat's off to you for directing a race, because I do understand that it is very, very difficult.
That has happened to me. I mean, well, I've been directing for 12 plus years now, but my runners 2 years ago for our half marathon, right at the start of the marathon, you go straight out into the course, or no, you do it out and back. at the start of the marathon, but the half marathon started a half hour later. And our lead cyclist took him right at the start of the race to do this little out and back that the marathon did. So right off the bat, our runners were off course. And so we had another out and back on another part of the course. So I called my course guy and go, "Hey, Danny, can you take out that out and back and let me know the distance?" He was there with his bike with the Jones counter on it, and tell me the distance. And he goes, "Okay." And he took that off at mile 6, I think it was. Took that out and back out. So we got the 13.6 down to about 13.3 half marathon. Ooh. So on the fly, I chiseled it down to 13.3, but we got an earful after that. And it was a certified course too. So yeah, things happen, but oh well, nothing we can do about it now.
Is that one of the kind of bigger stressors or kind of bigger glitches you've had during the race? Yeah,
I think that's probably the biggest one. One time I did ride my bike from the finish line up to check on to intercept the lead runner, and his name is Mike Linus. He's won Tacoma 6 times. And so I got up to about mile 23 or so, and the motorcycle police officer was leading it. We usually don't have police officers lead our races. I'm more comfortable with lead cyclists. But that year, TPD, Tacoma Police Department, was on their motorcycle leading it. And I'm like, "Hey, Mike, how you doing?" I rode up to him. He's like, "I'm feeling good, you know." And I go, "I think you got it in the bag." And then the police officer took a left and started taking him off course. I go, No, Mike. What do you do? "No, follow me. The cops go the wrong way." Oh. So I just happened to be there and catch Mike, and I brought him into the finish myself. And the police officer was pretty embarrassed, but just out of luck, I just happened to ride my bike up from the finish line and catch that. That would have been a shame.
That is pretty lucky. You know, that's interesting because we just...
And that just happened, didn't it? Yeah, like in Greece or something.
That's right. All those people went on.
Motorcyclists. Yep. Yeah, took all the elites off course. Yeah.
And so it was just kind of not an average guy, but not one of the elites that ended up winning because everybody else went the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, it was his first marathon, and they say he's not an elite marathoner, but he won it in 2:12.
Yeah, so
darn elite in my eyes.
Yeah, that's funny. And, I guess it happens more often than we think, too, because we had a friend of ours over at the Negative Splits podcast who just won a 5K. It was a small local 5K, but same thing. He had studied the route, and sure enough, the police escort went the wrong way. And so he was torn on what to do. And I think he ended up following it was a 5K, so, it's not adding on an extra mile to a marathon or anything. But so he went the wrong way just to follow the police, because it's that moment of, I know he's going the wrong way, but what do I do? So
yep. Did they change the course and I didn't know about it or what? Yeah. I would probably have followed the police officer too.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I would have too. Yeah. So, but he still won, so that was kind of cool. I'm curious, what's the craziest complaint you've ever had?
Oh boy. Craziest complaint. I've seen them all. I guess it would be something along the line. Oh, I know what one. We did an out and back 5K, and we got a complaint from a fast runner that there was no porta potty at the aid station at the turnaround point of a 5K.
Oh,
it's like, really? A 5K? I mean, come on. Well, I mean, we don't plan for porta potties on a 5K ever. But I don't know. I thought that was pretty crazy.
Don't have the pre-race burrito.
And there wasn't one there, so.
Yeah. What about you?
And he owns a running store too. I don't know. I didn't.
Oh my God.
But whatever.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's. See, when you start adding all up, that's pretty bad. What about you, Andy? Have you ever had any kind of crazy complaints with yours?
I've had plenty of them. I think the year before we had fresh baked cookies. And then the next year we didn't have cookies, and I got more complaints over that. And so this year we're going to have the fresh baked cookies. And then we also complained that the next year we didn't have Pop-Tarts, which the reason for that was, of course, I went to our Sam's, which is like a Costco, and got all the snacks and stuff, and then brought them to the race for all the runners for afterwards. And I had some volunteers that were unloading the car to take them inside. Well, I'd bought some Pop-Tarts for my sons, for just their breakfast. And so they accidentally grabbed the Pop-Tarts and brought them in and put them with the snack food. And then the runners ate all the Pop-Tarts first. That was the first thing that they went for. So anyway, the next year I didn't have the Pop-Tarts. And so I got complaints about the Pop-Tarts and the cookies. And so, now I know that I have to have those. If I have nothing else at the finish line, there will be Pop-Tarts and cookies.
Oh.
Yep.
Well, your sons must have been heartbroken too because they lost their Pop-Tarts.
I had to go buy some more. It was bad. All right, so
I have
Tony,
a friend that's her pre-race meal is a Pop-Tart.
Pop-Tart. Hey, it's got carbs. It's got the sugar in there. It's the perfect pre-race food.
Sure, you can, and if you get the ones with the fruit in it, there's fruit. There's all kinds of good stuff in there.
Oh yeah,
and preservatives.
That's right.
All right, so Tony, we've got some questions from some of the people from our Facebook page, but before we get to that, I'd like to have a little bit of discussion on training. And so, you run a lot of events and run a lot of races, and so that's got to affect your training on how you take care of yourself and get ready for all these. And you've had some multiple sub 3 hour finishes. And 280 marathons, multiple Ironmans. So, I kind of want to hear, what does your training week look like, or a training cycle, or how do you change things up whenever you're trying to do so many marathons in such a short period of time?
Yeah, well, I'm a big advocate on cross training. I cycle, swim quite a bit. I just started doing yoga just in the last year and a half. I'm 56 years old now. It's not getting any easier, but, I don't really have cycles, but I will do some marathons, just take them as a training run and have fun, and not do a taper form or anything. But right now I've been running a lot. I'm trying to I haven't really ran too fast. I've been injured a lot this year. So I'm injury free right now. So I've been running, 70 and 80 mile weeks, doing not a lot of cycle. There's not a lot of time to cycle and swim when you're running that kind of mileage, but, been doing yoga and stretching and, my tempos and all that stuff. But, I think just, listening to your body. And if you do feel something happening, you got to catch it quick and jump on the bike and spin, throw your training program out the door and listen to your body and not try to run through injuries. It just doesn't work. You're just going to grind yourself into the ground. But, it depends on what I'm doing, but I haven't done Ironman in a couple years. And that's when I'm actually, I'm my healthiest when I'm training for Ironman. I'm just all around fitter and I actually do run pretty good marathons when I'm in Ironman training. Just the volume of, your cardio volume. So yeah, it's kind of a roller coaster ride, but I'm a firm believer in listening to your body and go with it.
You talked a little bit about injury there, and you'd mentioned something about getting on the bike and doing some spinning. And so, which one of the questions was, how do you avoid injury? But I think, what you said was really good there about, once you're injured on what you do. So what is your philosophy on keeping yourself from, getting worn down and getting your body back to where you want it to be? If maybe you are injured a little bit, or maybe, you're kind of on that verge, what's your philosophy on getting back healthy again?
Yeah, just, you want to listen to your body. Like yesterday, I took yesterday off from running. I've been running 70-mile weeks for quite a while. I just wasn't feeling it yesterday. And so I hopped on the rowing machine and rode and didn't run. I ran 17 miles the day before. And, when you do coming back off an injury, you just definitely want to take it easy and not, of course, your mind says, yeah, I can run 50 miles this week. It's easy. But, you really do have to follow that 10% rule and come back slowly and do some cross training. And, when you're running so many marathons, you do get burned out. And so you need to you need to be aware of that in your sleep cycles and just be aware of that and take time off and just, chill out. There's always another race, don't toe the line if you're not feeling it, or just make it an easy training run and call it a day. So yeah, and let's just listen to your body,
So with doing the 70, 80 mile weeks right now, do you have a goal race coming up?
Well, if I do, I have, I would love to come in under 3 hours. I haven't done it in a couple years, but, I'm going to try to run Route 66 hard. And then I have Seattle Marathon the following weekend. And I'm going to try to run that hard. And then 2 weeks after that, I'm running Tucson Marathon, which is a kind of a downhill course. I did it a long time, 17 years ago or something. But, so yeah, I've got 3 races coming up that I'm going to kind of torture myself a little bit.
So I got this coming up and I'm going to run that hard. And then I have this coming up and I'm going to run that hard. And then this, and I'm hoping to go under 3. These are conversations I have every day.
So a couple of years ago, I ran Route 66 and I think I ran 2:58. And then there's a little turkey trot marathon here in Washington. So on the following Thursday. So I ran that and I just took it easy. I ran like a 3:20. And so I wanted to run.
Took it easy. Wait. I took it easy and I ran a 3:20.
Well, at the time that was pretty easy. But so I was running Seattle the following Sunday and wanted to do well there. And I ran a 2:57. But what was interesting was the last 2 miles of the Seattle Marathon, I felt pain in both my quads that I had never felt before in my life. It was like someone was stabbing me with a knife in both my quads, and they weren't injured. It was just like they were just like done. They were just toasted. Two hard races and 1 easy race in 7 days, and my quads were just like on fire. It was the strangest feeling. I've never had that feeling again. But
that's crazy. And so it wasn't an injury. It was just in the moment when you were done. It was
Wow. Just the pounding. Yeah, both of them, both my quads. It was the strangest thing. Makes you feel alive, though.
Yeah, I'll pass. So how do you decide your strategy going into a race? Like, do you know ahead of time that these are the ones I'm going to go hard and these are the ones I'm going to do as an EDC training run? Or do you kind of decide more on the fly?
Yeah, it's on the fly. If Tulsa is hot, I don't do well in warm weather at all. I'll just take it as a training run. I'll be a little upset that I tapered and then for a training run. Yeah, it's not the end of the world if things don't go right, because I've got Seattle Marathon the following week and it's guaranteed to be nice and cool out here in Washington. So I just roll with it, roll with the weather and with how I feel. If I'm feeling good and I have a good training cycle and a nice taper, and Tulsa happens to be cool, which it usually is. I think it's always been pretty cool there ever all the runs I've done there. It should be a few good weeks of running. So, but I'm not going to stress. If things don't go right, I bonk. Heck, I've bonked way more than I've had good races. That's for sure.
Well, I guess that many. It's bound to happen. Oh,
yeah. Well, I really like your philosophy there on running, that, you run enough races that if you do have that magical day, you can take advantage of it. Or if it's just, today my body is not going to let that happen, then, you don't let it happen. You do make it a training run, and which is kind of a complete different philosophy than what I've used. But I think that I might be doing things a little bit wrong, to where I'll have a key race in the spring and then a key race in the fall, and then maybe pepper a few in every now and then. But, I'm not racing a lot. And so my big goal race this year was Chicago, which was a few weeks ago. And, I put a whole training cycle into it. And that was my big race, shooting for a PR. And, I just didn't have a good day. It was hot. And, I just didn't bring my A game. Not that I didn't try. It just didn't happen that day. And so I didn't have anything to back up on that. It's almost like, you'll go through a training cycle and then all of a sudden you'll just have this training run that, was just magic and was just just effortless. And then you can't have infrequent races that happen. I mean, I guess the elites can. It's what they do, but I'm not that. And so I really like your philosophy that you're bringing to this, to where if it's not my day, it's not my day. It's a training run, and I think that's really really sound advice. That's my takeaway from this conversation for sure.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier to toe the line, not having all that pressure on you. The marathon is definitely a humbling distance. I mean, the best of the best have bad days, and it's as long as you don't take it too seriously, then I don't have a problem running a lot of races, because I'm not worried about my ego. If I run a 4-hour marathon, or I run a 3-hour marathon, or a 5-hour marathon, like in Maui a few years ago when it was the hottest day of the year in Maui.
Oh.
But just roll with it. That's my attitude, and I think that's how a lot of maniacs have qualified. Actually, they've had a little backup plan, and they thought, well, Chicago didn't go well, it was hot, I've got the little race down the road that I'm gonna go run, and I'll be darned if they didn't have a great race. And then they qualified for the club too.
That's kind of neat. A nice happy way to come off of a bad race and then end up qualifying for the Maniacs. That's kind of a neat way to do it. I like that. I'm curious, what does your recovery look like, especially in something where you're looking at doing maybe 3 hard marathons right in a row? How are you running the weeks in between? What are you doing for recovery?
Yeah, I do. I try to do a shakeout run the day after a marathon. I feel like using the muscles that are sore, flush that lactic acid out. But I do take some rest days and spin a lot during the week. I definitely don't keep my mileage up by any means. I'm riding that wave of fitness till the end. But so I'll swim and spin and do some jogs and whatnot. But my mileage is pretty low when I come up to like the events that I'm going to do here. I'm going to do probably a week and a half taper and then just ride that fitness out through Tucson. But yeah, just easy mileage and spinning in between. Try to eat lots of protein and get lots of rest. But yeah.
So that's
my gig.
Do you have any particular kind of nutrition philosophy that you follow, or?
No, not really. I mean, I eat pretty healthy. Smoothies, protein powder, I eat a lot of salmon. I don't do anything special. I just try to eat wisely, I don't do anything special, I don't think.
Oh, that makes
my diet's a lot better than it was 20 years ago, just because I've learned, McDonald's isn't the greatest thing to eat. But so yeah, I cook a lot at home, and don't eat out a lot of junk food. Although I do stop at KFC every now and then after a really hard long run and get their mashed potato bowl.
Oh.
With the chicken in it. I don't know what they call it, but it goes down pretty good after a hard run.
So what about after a marathon? Do you have a guilty pleasure, or is it KFC?
Oh, no, not KFC. That's just, a burger and a beer.
A burger and a beer.
Yep. That's my go-to. Give me about 3 or 4 hours after a race, and that's where you'll find me bellied up to a bar having a burger and a beer with friends.
Well earned.
Yes.
Well, I think we've got some questions here, and we talked about recovering between races, and so I think this is one that's going to really help out Ashley, and she's a listener that she's looking for advice, and she is getting ready to attempt the I-35 challenge, and that's coming up. Looks like that's a year from now in October. But the challenge is that you run the marathon in Kansas City on Saturday, and then you scoot on up to Des Moines on Sunday, and then you do another marathon the next day. And then she's looking for advice on how her training needs to look for her to do back-to-back marathons on back-to-back days. Do you have any advice for Ashley?
Yeah, I mean, definitely get your mileage up, as much as you can training, but I would do some back-to-back long runs. It could be, 15 miles on the road, maybe 20 on the trails, something like that. But get in a few back-to-back, try to simulate, a lot of time on your feet, 2 days in a row, most definitely. I used to train for a 50-mile or 100-mile race by doing double marathons Saturday and Sunday, training for the longer races. So yeah, I would say just try to get the time on your feet, work that into your training cycle. Definitely like 3 weeks out, get a couple back-to-back long runs on there. Sounds like fun though. Doubles are a challenge. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've looked at that race myself and considered that, but boy, that's a tough thing for 2 in a row.
Wait, so I think I heard you said you're going to do it, right, Andy? Is that what I heard?
Am I going to what? I'm sorry.
So I heard you're joining Ashley next year and you're doing that? That's what I heard?
I'm thinking about it.
Ah.
I've looked at it, about it. So we'll see.
I don't know how far the drive is between those 2 races, but the drive is probably going to be harder than running the race.
Yeah, it's about 2 hours. Yeah, after Chicago, about an hour after the race in Chicago, I was driving south, and so that was a bad drive.
Oh my gosh, I dread the drive after a race.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, if she can get into a bathtub right after her first race, those legs in an ice bath, or if there's a spin bike at the hotel, that evening, just go and spin on it, for 30 minutes or so, and get that lactic acid out and get them ready for the next morning. That'd be my suggestion for the next day.
Sounds great. Okay, so listener Robert. His question is, do you encourage people to try their best at a race, or do you believe that for some, it's just about starting and finishing without really pushing themselves just to complete the set amount and become a maniac? So I guess what he's thinking is, what's the best way to become a maniac? And your opinion on that?
Well, yeah, I would say what I've said in the past is train hard for your first race. And if you're doing 3 in 3 months, train for that one to be your goal race, and then just take the last 2 as fun runs. Or you can do it vice versa. If you've got, say, the Chicago Marathon as your goal race, just pick a couple races and do those as long training runs and have fun with your friends. That's my philosophy anyway. I don't think you should go out and try to run. If you've never done it, your body's not accustomed to running that many hard marathons in a row. I think it's safer just to take them as a training run, go out and have fun, and get that experience for your A race there.
Right. We have another question, and this one comes from Andrew. And actually, Andrew is our regional Maniac ambassador here in the Cincinnati area. He had a question. It's a bit of a chicken and egg question. And he's just wondering if you've seen a relationship between the club and marathon running itself. So do you think the club has had an impact on the rise in the number of marathons available? Or has the club kind of grown as a direct result of all the number of races?
I feel like the Maniacs have spawned a lot more races. So I'm not sure what's the chicken and what's the egg, but I think because there's so much demand for more races, and the Maniacs are a part of that. So that's, I feel we have the most amount of Maniacs in Washington than any other state. And this is where probably the most races are of any other state. It's just spawned so many new races just because of their chasing stars. So yeah, I think the Maniacs have changed the face of marathoning, and not only new races, but the thought of running more than your 2 races a year. I ran 4 races once in a year way back when, and people thought I was just crazy. 4 races, now we do them in 4 days. So we've kind of, I think the Maniacs have had a direct result in how people take view the marathon.
Kind of to add to that, from a race director mindset, I think that if there's an organization out there that I could almost cater to for an event, let's say I have an event going on, and are there race directors that specifically contact you guys and say, hey, we're putting on an event and we would like you to get this information out to your membership, and then we would possibly give them a discount too.
Oh yeah. We're contacted multiple times every week from different races. Houston Marathon just emailed us the other day, and it goes on and on. We're contacted all the time. They want our members to come to the race, and we get discounts. We get special finish line areas, our own porta potties. So they're doing a lot to cater to the club. I mean, we have over 30,000 members in both clubs, and so we get all kinds of offers from people, and races are also. You mentioned you're from Cincinnati. We were just talking to Hawkeye Marathon, and they're kicking around an idea of doing the Three Little Piggy series, and they want to cater to the Maniacs and do the Hawkeye Marathon, the Flying Pig, and then there's another race somewhere that's pig oriented. So they're coming up with a scheme to make these 3 races series and appeal to the Maniacs and the Half Fanatics to come out and do those races. So they're knocking on our door weekly for sure. And Tulsa, Route 66 has just done a great job catering to the clubs. They call it the Maniac Corner. They have a great spread of food, and they've got beer and couches and heaters in this area, all for the Maniacs and Fanatics. It's pretty cool, and they get a special medal. It's all good. Yeah, the club loves it. We have race discounts on our race calendar. So it's beneficial for the races and the club. So we try to work with them.
Well, that's very cool because you answered the next question, which was a listener question from David that was asking, what are the real benefits to someone who easily qualifies but can't see the advantage of joining the Marathon Maniacs? And I think you absolutely just answered that question perfectly, because are there any other benefits that someone might decide to go ahead and join that you didn't mention there just a second ago?
Well, we've got you have your own database, so you can track your races on our website. It calculates your levels. So as long as you enter your races, it can move you from 1 star to 4 stars automatically. But the race discounts and the camaraderie at the races are just, if that's your thing, if you're social, the clubs are for you. So we've got a newsletter, which every club does, but it is about the camaraderie, I think, and making friends along the course with like-minded runners, for sure.
Yeah, I love being a maniac and showing up in the yellow and stuff. But what I love about it is I used to travel a lot alone to races. And so, that kind of gets old. So you wear your yellow out there and you immediately have all these friends around you, and it's really cool. But then on the flip side, if you want to go out and this is just your race and you don't want to be social, you don't wear the yellow and you can just blend in with the crowd. So it's I don't know. I love it. I love being a part of it. It's a lot of fun, and I've met a lot of cool people.
Yeah. A lot of ride sharing going on in hotels and things like that. A lot of friendships and marriages have happened because of the club. So that's been really cool to see.
Now, have you been invited? Have you been?
Well, yeah, I was at a wedding, our first reunion race at the Gasparilla Marathon, which is no longer, but a couple got married at the finish line by the Rev, Don Kynes, who is a Maniac as well. So we had a wedding ceremony right at the finish line of the Gasparilla Marathon. So that was pretty cool back in 2006.
Love that.
Probably one of the number one reasons why I would want to get one of those yellow Marathon Maniac shirts. And can you guess what that reason is?
What is it?
Bragging rights.
No, it matches my running kilt.
That's right, it does.
It matches perfectly. Wouldn't that look good together?
Oh.
Or would it be too much?
No, it would be awesome. I have seen Maniacs in that with kilt and stuff. It looks good. So let's see. We already have.
Yep.
October was.
What's Chicago?
Chicago. Okay, what can you squeeze in? Let's see. I know you're so busy. You can't sneak away to Bass Pro this weekend.
Let's see. Can I? Is that tomorrow?
That's Sunday.
No, Sunday.
It's on Sunday.
That's Sunday. Gosh.
And then
I'll see what I.
And then there's got to be something in December.
Yeah, I can certainly get something in December. If not, I'll get it.
Well, what you could do Baltimore. I did this double a few years ago. Baltimore and Bass Pro. I think that's the double I did. So Saturday and Sunday, and you're in.
Oh wow! I'll figure something out. But I do need to get the shirt.
And you'll be 4 stars too.
Yeah, it's just going to look too darn good with the kilt and the shirt together. I mean, I got to do it.
Yes, you have to. You got to do it.
I see the yellow sports skirts out there, and they look great with the yellow top too.
Yeah,
I haven't seen your kilt, but I'm sure it's probably going to look good.
Yeah, my family colors are the yellow and the black, and yeah, it's pretty good. Well, Crystal, do you want to ask the last question from Jeff?
Yeah, so this was interesting. So we, within our Facebook group, we were having a bit of a discussion, and this was kind of brought up by Jeff, who is Maniac number 5348. And he kind of felt like maybe in his area that some of the novelty of being a Maniac was waning a little bit, and he felt like he didn't see as many people dressed in the Maniac gear out at some of his races. To which myself and Andrew kind of jumped in and were like, we feel like it's really exploding over in this area, over in Cincinnati and kind of Ohio and this area. So I'm just wondering, have you noticed any regional shifts in some of the memberships, or is it just kind of coincidental?
Yeah, I have. I think a lot of people out here in Washington, they've been in the club for 10, 12 years or whatever. And so they're wearing different club gear, I guess, sometimes. But I do see we're getting a big growth spurt out down in Texas now and Arkansas. Yeah, so it does kind of shift, We're starting to see more growth in Europe and Brazil. So yeah, he's right. I think it does shift. You still go to the races out here in Washington and you see all kinds of Maniacs, and you'll see a lot of them in disguise like you are sometimes. So maybe they'll be wearing a hat or a buff or something, but you strike up a conversation like, oh yeah, I joined back in 2004 and I'm, Maniac 100 or something like that. But, yeah, definitely shift in, the areas for sure.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. I noticed that we are starting to get long on time. So we want to thank you so much for coming out tonight. And we are going to put links in the show notes to everything. We want to make sure that we link up. We have your Marathon Maniac page, which lists all of your races. So if people want to go through and kind of scroll through that and scroll through that and scroll through that and scroll through that, eventually you'll get to the bottom. We'll also make sure that we have the links to the Marathon Maniacs website as well as the Half Fanatics. We'll also link up to the Tacoma City Marathon. I don't know why I have such a hard time with that. When is that race for people who are kind of planning their spring races?
It's April 28th and 29th. It's a weekend of running 5K on Saturday and a low-key marathon and half marathon. And then on Sunday is the Michelob Ultra, the main event, Michelob Ultra marathon, half marathon. And we do actually have a 50K ultra on that race too. So.
And I saw that for next year, and I thought that was kind of interesting because I don't think I've ever seen kind of a marathon that's added on a 50K. I've seen maybe some of the ultras that have added on, the lesser distances. So that was kind of neat. What spurred that to add on the 50K?
Well, we changed the course this year to it won't be going across the Narrows Bridge like it has the last 3 or 4 years. So, but the marathon course runs right by it. And I was thinking, well, we could add an out and back ultra marathon 2.5 miles out over the Narrows Bridge, turn around and come back, and then join the marathon course at mile, I think it's 16. And so they get an extra medal, and they get an ultra marathon time and a marathon time. So I just thought this is the first year next year that we're going to do it. So we'll see how it goes. It's, there aren't very many ultra marathons in city events. So yeah, this will be kind of unique. We'll see how it goes.
So I think if anybody's looking to make that jump into the ultra distance, that might be a good one to get their feet wet with. I like it.
Yeah. And you can just do it on the fly. If you're feeling it, take a right and keep on going and go across the Narrows Bridge and do the ultra. If you're not feeling it, take a left and just do the little tiny 26-mile jog.
Fun run. Yeah.
I love that. I love that you can do that on the fly. That's very cool.
Yeah. It'll be fun.
Awesome. Well, did you have anything else, Andy?
No, I think I'm good. You want me to take us out?
All right. Well, then, again, thank you so much, Tony. So appreciate your time. Good luck with the races coming up. Hope everything goes well. We'll have to check in with you. And just want to thank everybody for listening. Also want to really just thank for everyone for their support as we kind of move on after the passing of Stephen. The outreach of support from everybody has just been absolutely overwhelming, and cannot tell you how much it means to us. We appreciate it a lot. With that, be sure to visit heartlandrunning.com. We'll have the show notes up there with all the links that we talked about. There's still room. Come in and join our Facebook group. As you've heard from this conversation, everyone kind of gets to find out who's the guest is coming ahead of time. You get some sneak peeks. We also do some contests and just have a lot of fun within our Facebook group. We also are on Strava, so if you want to check out our Strava group, do that as well. We're on Instagram. And then we also have a new phone number as well. So if you want to leave us a message, you can also send us a text as well. The number for that now is 513-486-4636. And again, that'll be in the show notes as well. And if you like the show, be sure to tell a friend. And also, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. And as always, we would like to give a shout out to the Ozark Mountain Daredevils for the use of their music in this podcast. So thanks so much, everyone. And we will see you again next week.
See you later.
Take care.